Good evening, everyone. Can I invite you to this meeting of the Colne Town Council April meeting, both here in the room and online? Have we got any apologies?
Yes, I've got apologies from Councillor Bell, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Lord, and Councillor Howarth,
Thank,
and Councillor Butterworth.
thank you for that. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Anywhere on the agenda? Right, minutes of the meeting of the last meeting. Is there any comments or concerns, queries? If not, can someone propose them as a correct record? Thank you, Alice. And can someone second them, please? Thank you, David. Item 5 is clerk's update. Gina?
Yeah, so there's not actually much to update on. I can tell you that the CCTV and the lighting that we put in at Elkin Courts Park is now live. The lighting is set on I think it just comes on when it's dark enough and it goes off at 10 o'clock. The other thing is we have had various amounts of antisocial behaviour again within the park, mainly fires. All through last week, I think, and last night again. I think the fire brigade have been out near enough every night, haven't they? So I think that's the only thing that I actually had to update you about. There will be, along with that antisocial behaviour in Elkin Courts, there will be an addition to item 9 for the borrowing item, which is something that would need to be discussed. So.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone any questions to Gina? Yes.
Just a little sort of note, really, from our meeting of the working group of Elkin Coats last week, that we agreed that Gina and I, after Easter, worked together to write something sort of supporting a joint bid, really, of matched funding from Landpack and the Town Council to try to create a piece of work that would be detached outreach from SEAG, rather like we did at Jim Smart Way last summer, involving axe throwing. It was very, very successful and managed to divert young people very successfully, and SEAG actually gained some new members as well. So we'll try that. We can only try, can't we?
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. We've got no one here for public forum, so we'll move on to item 7, which is report from the Borough and County Council. We don't have Councillor Ash Sutcliffe for the County Council, but David, can you report on the Borough issues concerning Colne, please?
Yes. There weren't any planning applications recently. We had one in Lancashire Bridge, but not one in Colne. In terms of the updates on the ones in the minutes, I think again comments were noted. We had the one on the agricultural building, that was a class Q one, so we're just investigating that one. So whether there's anything else we should factor into that one. The Snellgrove one is being challenged and enforced on, so that one's not going so well for them. And another one, we've got that one again. We're having a look at that one to see about the land and location on that one. So all a bit inclusive and treading water really on those. What else do we have?
So you might remember, I mentioned this before, I fell down the slopes at King George V playing field in a comical way that hurt a lot. And we put in for new steps, and £23,000 was put in for incredibly engineered steps. I rang Phil Riley and said, "Do you agree with this?" And he said, "No." He said, "I think they've gone mad." I said, "I was really envisaging some railway sleepers and some chippings." He said, "That's what I was envisaging." So he put in for that instead, and that came to Cone area, and the more sort of rustic, which I think will fit in nicer than masses of concrete, which was what was envisaged for the 23,000. That was approved. After the success of the bollards being repainted at the top of town, and I know, having spoken to Gina, that you've got some real problems with your corroded bollards at the town hall, but you're looking at blasting them before painting them. I asked for a quote for the many bollards. The more you look at them, the more you just see bollards all around. I can't go anywhere now without seeing rusty bollards. I don't know whether you've noticed. We painted those ones on Birtwistle Avenue, so they look a lot better. Everywhere I go, I just see bollards. Yeah. I just keep thinking I might do all the bollards, but there just seem to be more and more. Anyway, it was a very reasonable quote has come forward for all of the ones at the bottom of town. So I'm going to put in a bid to Cone Area Committee to do that, and I really think it will lift the town. I am told, and also Councillor Robinson tells me, that the new street signs that were on our outstanding list have gone up, and all the ones that we'd reported have been painted. Inevitably now wandering about, I've seen a few more, not that many more, but hopefully we can really keep on top of all the cast iron signs and any missing ones. And just a little aside, Gina, I noticed somebody stuck some sort of protest paperwork on the, yes?
Yeah.
They need some fairy liquid on that. I don't know what it is, but doesn't look good.
It's there. I ripped it off as I was coming in.
I think Billy's
On it.
on it.
On
Yes.
it. Excellent. So my only other plea is that we had another webinar. No. Teams with the Chief Executive of Pendle Council about local government reorganisation and how it went in Cumbria. And it was much more mind-numbingly complicated than I'd even envisaged thinking it would be complicated. It's clear that consultants are going to get millions of pounds of government money, of our money, to do this. You know, you can only hope that in the end we'll be in a better place, but we can't be so sure. So with that in mind, at the last meeting, and I see it's in the minutes, I did say that I think we do need a really serious separate meeting, because we know how slow the legal powers that be are, and they'll be doing lots of this. So I would be really grateful if we could put a date in the diary to have, I don't know, some kind of extraordinary transfer of asset discussion.
Yeah. A couple of other ones, by the way. I just remembered, aside from the minutes that were on the Cone Town Council, on the planning side, we did have the discussion about the St Bart's Parish Room extension.
Oh, yeah.
We've approved that, but we wanted the design changed, because basically there were too many doors. They wanted doors here and then ramps there and everything. And we said, why not have everything around the side and try and have it so it matches the actual old grammar school building, which has the 5 big windows, have the extension there having 5 small windows. So it had like a sort of, you know, major and minor type of aspect to it. Architect Andrew Hawthorne was very thankful for that input and liked it. So they're going away and going to do that. Obviously, they've got tons and tons of money to fundraise, so that's the big challenge they've got now. The only other planning application we had was the 18 Keithley Road one. This is the one on the corner with Carrie Lane. And what they wanted to do is to develop the building behind it, which was derelict, basically. And they wanted to have some huge extension of the car parking arena. It was basically just like a car park with an extra building added to it. So we said that would be an absolute mess when it came to access and also impact on the landscape and the view. So when you come up Carrie Lane, you just basically see car park with a building attached to it. And it's not a building you can sell separately. You have to have it as an ancillary to the main building. So we said, well, that's not the way it's designed. So we refused that one.
But that wasn't the only reason why we refused it. It would have taken out an enormous amount of our non-designated heritage asset, which is the wall with the buttresses all along. It would have taken out. I was really surprised at how much that would have gone.
Yeah.
And interestingly, LCC said you can bring these stones to our depot and we will use them elsewhere.
Yeah.
No,
You're missing the point there. The only other matter still pending, we're still chasing the pigeon clearance. The idea of getting rid of the pigeons in the town centre, and what can you do to do that? There is some movement apparently on the hawk solution. So we'll see.
We'll
what
get
that
the one
comes to.
from down in
So,
Hertfordshire that's been making a mess.
Don't want that one. Especially if you're tall and bald.
well, we don't want that, no. And there's also some work we're pushing as well on the Cone Cemetery chapels, because the chapels have got problems with their roofs and they're letting in water, etc. So we're saying, well,
Only one of them.
if the cemetery's making some money, why don't you reinvest it into the actual chapel that's there and having some problems? So we're pushing on that one as well.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, can we move on to item 8, finances, please? You've all received a schedule of payments on paper 8A. Is there any questions on that or comments? No? Well, can I have a proposer and seconder to accept that? Well, Ian can propose them first, and then you also, Patricia. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 8B is the summary of the budget, expenditure and commitments. Any questions on that?
I will just say before we start, this is work in progress as of the 31st of March, because this doesn't take into account any prepayments, accruals, etc., etc. We're still working on that.
David?
That's my first question answered then. How robust are these numbers, I was going to say? No, I think as a first pass, obviously, it's quite good that we've come in under our latest budget on the expenses side and slightly over on the income side. So we've got a sort of 40,000 better position, but obviously subject to prepayments, accrual, etc., etc. I notice as well, we've got the various earmark reserves, and I know they get mentioned later in terms of how we use them up in terms of the rental properties and the town hall, etc. So I'm sure we can have a look at those again, I'm sure, when it comes to finalising that. But other than that, no other questions really. So I'll move it if you like.
That? Yes, thank you, David. Can I have a seconder for that? Patricia, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 9 is the PWLB borrowing requirement that's Public Works Loan Board. Do you want to take the extra item at the same time? Yes? Can I ask? Yes. So are you going to open with that? All right. Okay.
Yes, so I did obviously mention antisocial behaviour in the park. We have had more damage to the wall at the Secret Garden. Basically, as well, the fencing that we put in has been damaged. I think we've got some pictures.
I took a lot of pictures up there yesterday.
They basically kicked it down completely in some areas.
And the arch has gone.
It actually looks worse when you get up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Job
thing
was maybe.
where they all the way around the walls to get all the way around. It needs a
My concern is that obviously now they've weakened it that much that it looks like it's all going to fall. My concern is that it will fall onto someone. Yeah.
David, myself and Howard went up there. We spent quite a bit of time there looking round it, seeing what we could do, but it's overwhelmingly awful. Yes, Howard?
Just one thing that actually I forgot to mention yesterday. There are the two gates on the path that are not locked, so people can gain access closer to it. So I think we need to look at somehow locking that. It probably won't be easy, because on one of the gates where the snack is, it's bent out of shape. So obviously that has been shut and someone's forced it on. But I think we should look at doing it. Now, I understand there may be some right of access to the field at the side of it, but I think notwithstanding that, I think we do need to do that little bit of extra security on it.
Well, we have actually ordered some more fencing. It's actually
we've ordered some steel hoarding panels, so they're a lot stronger, to try and keep the youths away, which is being delivered tomorrow morning. So by tomorrow afternoon, that'll be up. It'll be reinforced, but we're going to have to extend the fencing to cover the full side of the wall that's on its way.
The other, sorry.
Yeah, that the fencing and everything would be fairly key to me, because we've got to be able to keep them away from the wall, and there's no point in spending money at this current time in rebuilding that wall and making it if they can still gain access to it. We've got to somehow find a way of stopping them from being able to do any more damage, or damage whatever we decide to repair, because whatever we spend on doing that wall, it's going to be a lot of money, because it's an ancient wall, and Sarah knows all about lime, cement and all sorts of things. That's what it was built of, and unfortunately, that's horrific, unfortunately, to us that's lived in Colne. Like, I've been here 50 odd years now, and that has been part of my daily walk or leisurely walk all the time I've been here. It's a beautiful sight, and it's now a wreck, unfortunately.
Does Sarah want to go first, or you?
Can I just add on that behind the fence in the garden itself are all the benches? If we can look at getting them this side of the fence, not the fence that we put up before, whenever it was, to stop them getting to the wall in the first. But if we can get them, if we can get them this side of the temporary fencing, at least when people get in there, they that is the great shame of it. That the flipping garden looks quite nice with tulips, and I only recognise the tulips, but there were tulips there and everything, which I think is down to Councillor Mann and her buddies, or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Sarah.
I think this is so sad. It's a series of unfortunate events. The first unfortunate event was that Pendle Council repaired it in the cheapest way possible, that destabilised it and underwhelmed its integrity. That was the first thing. And then unwittingly, and it's sort of our fault, but we couldn't have seen it, I don't think, is that we created psychologically a challenge. So with the fencing, that's a challenge. And then with the fact that it was not fully repaired quickly, that was a challenge. We weren't thinking about it like that. We were thinking we must keep people safe and all of that. We had laudable aims, but what we've done is we've created a challenge, and they've thought we can rise to this challenge. And that's really, really, really unfortunate. I think now that we see this, and I don't know what the finances are, and I don't know whether we've got a contractor able to work with Lime to move swiftly. If we can, what we need to do is do full-on repairs as quickly as we can, then the challenge is gone, if we can. And the best thing, of course, is that April is lime season. We've got lime season April till September. That's the only time of the year that you can do work on a wall like this. So we're in it now, and I don't know whether you've spoken to any contractors.
We have a quote to do, but this is just basically the one side of the wall that they've managed to take down completely, really. That looks like it's going to fall. So it's not the wall with the arch, it's the one next to. And that quote was, I'll have to add it up in my head because but using lime, I think was 120,000, but that's just for that part of the wall. If you remember, we did get a quote. I think it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now to do the whole wall, and that was in excess of 350,000.
Nathan?
So the quote itself, it's to take approximately 46 metres of wall down to the foundations, remove any mess behind or anything that could be putting pressure on the wall and rebuilding the wall. The contractor estimated roughly take about 10 weeks, which you've then got to have welfare cabins and a couple of extra bits in for the contractors working on site. So it was to take it down to the foundations and then rebuild it to an appropriate height with curved tops on the wall so people can't sit or walk on the wall. Yeah.
Yes, David?
Yes, Chairman. Unfortunately, the only thing I can bring to the table is bad news. You can't start building the wall up until you've taken everything off it that's loose, because there's no point building the wall back up on top of something that's loose. If any of the courses are loose, they've got to come off. So it's got to be stripped back virtually, as Nathan says, basically down to ground. The cost of it certainly isn't achievable this financial year, and with restrictions as to what we can put on precept, it probably isn't next year. And why I'm saying that is we can't afford enough out of the budget to pay the loan payments back on a 300 grand extra loan to pay just solely for the wall. It can't be done. The payments would be too big, as you can soon imagine, just flicking through figures in your head. Unfortunately, we're in a position where the wall isn't safe in certain places, particularly around where it curves round at bottom, where a lot of it's gone, and the arch. And my concern is what happens if the little hooligans get back on it, and then while they're on it, it comes down, and they come down with it, and the other half drops on top of them. Somebody's going to be in trouble. So with a sort of a duty of safety on the town council, I think we've got to do something with it. And the only thing I can think of that we could afford to do just instantly is to take it down and put it with the rest of the wall that was taken down a few weeks ago and put it in storage until we can get us heads round what we're going to do. I don't think we can come up with a solution immediately because we haven't got the funds to do it, and it needs some work on it to think about how we're going to do it. In the meantime, I don't think we can leave it in an unsafe state, and I think we've actually got to take it down and put it into storage, because I think we've got a duty to make that wall safe. I know the kids shouldn't be playing on it, but they will. And if they fall off and we knowingly know it's not safe, I don't think in a court case we would have a leg to stand on if it came down on top of them. And I think from a safety point of view, we've got to do something with it. And that's what I'm saying is, with the bad news, the only thing I can bring is bad news. The bad news is that we can't afford to do it immediately. We can't afford to do it probably in the next couple of years. And there's a safety issue, and I think it's got to come down.
Who else wants to? Ian?
Thanks, Chair. Obviously it's a very old wall. It's got a lot of historical importance to the area. Is not any grants we could apply for to refurbish the wall? Maybe English Heritage or other organisations?
No.
I'm not sure there's anything that will lend us that kind of money. I mean, we can look into it, but then again, that wouldn't happen overnight either.
Any other comments?
Just in terms of cost, 46 metres for 300,000 plus. Now, isn't that mostly just manpower? Because the materials are there.
Mm.
You're just picking up the materials and reusing them with new line, aren't you?
The 46 metres was the one section, and that
Right.
was the 100 and odd thousand that Gina mentioned.
Right.
The 350 plus was the full
For the whole
project a couple of years ago.
Okay. But even a 10-week time frame at 100,000 is 10 grand a week on labour, which is I mean, how many people are we thinking of putting on this, or is the company suggesting?
It was 8 members of staff. There's equipment hire on there. There's various bits on there that they'd have to bring in to complete the job.
Okay.
Because they'd have to clear behind the wall as well before they rebuild it.
Okay. We've just had one quote, haven't we?
yeah, up to now, yeah.
All right. We approached any other people, I think. No.
I don't think we've had a chance to.
Okay. I'm just thinking, obviously, we've had some work done recently with people who are experts in using lime and stone. They're a smaller team, so it would be a longer job, but you know, I could get in touch with them and get them to come and give a two-penneth. Just, you know, more ideas, more thought, perhaps.
I believe one of the men working within the team has recently done some work for you already.
Right. Fair enough. And the other thing about danger and risk. Now, although this isn't the same sort of scenario, if you have a wall and somebody's going to break in over it, if the person breaking in can see it's got barbed wire or broken glass embedded on the top of it, and they do that and hurt themselves, it's not your fault. The law says they know, they can see the risk. So if we cover it in signs saying this wall is dangerous, if you climb on this, you will hurt yourself, are we not dispensing our liability in some way?
I don't know.
I mean, the PR wouldn't be good, I know that,
Yeah.
but you know, it starts to manage our risk, because this could be a long and drawn out process. And if they're on there every day or every week or whatever, then they could be on there now, and we can't protect it.
It appears that there's more playing in that part of the park than there is where we provide the facility.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
And Alice wanted to speak, and then Ian.
About signage, we did have quite a number of signs up there when it first was seen as a little bit dangerous, and every single sign was ripped down more or less immediately. And yeah, so I'm not sure how we'd be responsible for that if there isn't any signs, because they've been ripped and thrown into the bushes, which is a problem. So what's the opinion? We're going to have to do something very quickly, aren't we? Those barriers are arriving tomorrow, did you say?
Yes, they're arriving tomorrow, and they'll be in place by tomorrow afternoon.
I've got to say that the barriers that were placed originally, they were never going to do the job, unfortunately. I think that they were quite flimsy, really.
Ian and then David.
Thank you, Chair. What you were talking about is a legal principle called valente non fit injuria, and it is a very common one that a lot of people are aware of. If you go to a nightclub and you go to the cloakroom and you see a sign saying management take no responsibility for your, that is the principle of valente non fit injuria. No harm may be done to he who is willing. So if you have signs saying this is going to kill you, keep away, and you ignore the signs and get injured, you cannot sue. And by the way, the same principle applies on the buses. If a bus has an accident, a crash, you can't sue the bus company. Because if you look at your ticket somewhere, it says subject to. When you read the rules and regulations, somewhere in very small print it says management will take no responsibility if you are killed, injured, or somebody on this bus.
David.
Yeah. Picking up Alice's point about the fact that the previous fencing wasn't good enough, this is a point I'm making. You can't spend all that money on repairing this fence until you've got a barrier that stops them getting on it, because this is ongoing, and it's been ongoing for some time, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we've got to find a method with the barriers of stopping them getting to that wall, and then it's worth repairing it. But if you repair it and they come and do that damage again, there he said, we can't, we've took it 2 years away now. So we've got to make those fences work.
Howard.
Thank you. There's also a section of law called unfair, forget the exact wording, but it means if you see a car park, when you used to go in a car park, they used to have signs that said, we're not responsible for any damage caused. Well, that's an unfair, it's a legal word for it, and I can't remember. So I think, apart from anything else, whenever you read of anybody that's been doing anything silly on a bike or climbing on a wall and they fall off, they were always the most wonderful child in the world, and they doted on the granny, they collected for every charity going, and etc. But I think the first thing we have to do is get this better shielding in place, and then that'll give us time to look at all the various options, from doing nothing, leaving it encased in aspic or whatever, or we take it down and store it, because there'll be a cost to that of I think it's costing us £2,500–3,000 now for the bit that's stored that
it's £3,000
that they knocked off whenever it was. So that's the first thing, and then I think we just have to act. And it may be worth putting a sign up there, and hope it doesn't get vandalised, that says this is what it should look like. It looks like it does now because of feral children. If this is your children and you don't know where they are, send them down to Byron Road, and you may not want them, but we have to say that to people, so that if parents say, isn't it a shame that the thing has been wrecked, and it's not that long ago that they were setting fire to things in the playground. It may be no coincidence, but there is now the CCTV working down there, and at the weekend, as well as pulling the wall down, they set a fire in the woodland, the nature reserve, that needed 3 fire engines to deal with it. And you've only got to walk up the park, and the grass is already turning brown. So if one of those catches, we'll lose the woodland and everything. It doesn't bear thinking about. They've even set fire to stuff at the bottom end of the park where there is the TV. Now that looks, the bit that we saw looked to have it looked as if it didn't get a hold. It sort of spluttered and went out. But well, you just what people, I'm afraid, don't know where the children are nowadays. I know it's all when I was a lad, but we used to have policemen walking around. You know, it'd be nice for them to walk up and down Alkin Courts once or twice.
I presume these are all being reported to the police, but we don't. Do you just get a crime number, or? Yes, Sarah.
It's absolutely vital that every single thing we're responsible for this, that we report, even if it's every day. You know, we use that report it function of Lancashire Constabulary because they will then put resources into it. We spoke to the police at the last Cone area about this. So, but that's the first time that we've mentioned it because it's the first time I'd heard about the fires. So we've only given them like, when was Cone area? It was like April the 8th or something. It's not many days. So you need to be reporting every single day. I think that's really, really, really important. And then
the
perhaps
fire was this last weekend, just to make it
right. And then perhaps, you know, we have a duty of care with our social media and our traction to say the obvious, which is that all of these young people have phones. All of the parents have phones. You can track them. You should be tracking them. You know, if you're 13, what are you going around to your friend's house? Or are you having illicit drugs behind Lidl? Or are you setting fires in Alkin Coats? Frankly, as a mummy, admittedly of a 24-year-old, you want to know where they are, you know, and there have been times, even though my son is 24, when I've woken at 2 a.m. and I've said, is he home? Just look. And David's like, really? Yes, just look, just check he's home. You know, he's hundreds of miles away. There's nothing I can do. But that is the duty of care that all parents should have. And we should say that. We should say that. We should say, look what's happened. Look at this cost. Look at this effort that's been put in the garden.
Yeah, I suppose we could put it on our social media.
I think we need to do a series of posts, and you know, I'll share them at SEAG as well, obviously.
I think as well, have we got any pictures from the CCTV? If they've done a fire near the CCTV, even if it's grainy, you know, it's all about colour of training shoe and all that sort of stuff.
We might know this.
The fire that was yesterday, we've got that on camera, but it's quite a distance out from the camera, but you can see the fire and the fire brigade arriving. We've had a look today and you can't see anyone before or after, because obviously if they've gone out the top end of the park, you're not going to catch them.
We're going into the secret garden.
We've not had a chance to look at any of the others yet.
If there's anyone where, if you were the mummy, you'd know them, it's worth sharing with us at SEAG, it's worth sharing with the police. We might know them.
Yeah, stick it on the dreaded Cone Talk. I mean,
Don't put it on the Cone Talk.
No, but I'm saying the town council's got a good social media presence. It's got lots of followers. It's got lots of stuff going on. You know, obviously you put that stuff for Easter in Cone, and you always get people saying, oh, "I didn't know there was an event on." You know, so you always get the people like that. But you get a load of people that do know what's going on.
Yes, David.
Yes, Chairman. In the last 7 days, there has been 5 fires in total. The last one that some of you won't know about was last night. And I believe they set what was the wildflower garden, which is part of where the orchard is at the far side of the park. They set that on fire last night. Now, I know Sarah's saying it needs as many of us as possible to report it to the police. And then the more it gets logged, the more chance it has of coming to top of the list of getting flagged up as a priority. But it will have been reported anyway, because it went out to a fire that could be classed as arson, and it is, because it's been a fire that's been set. the fire service will have reported it as they have a duty to do that to police anyway. So it will have been reported by fire service.
Well, that might be so, but I do think as the town council, we should be reporting every single incident as a
Yes.
matter of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we all know that land, don't we? It's our. So we've got a proposal from Howard.
One last other thing, Chairman. I know someone has told me while we've been out going around streets this last couple of weeks, how some of the kids do get up there. Probably only Dave will understand what I'm talking about. But if you walk across the middle of the park, about halfway up, there's a place where you can get across where it's dark, is where that old pigeon loft used to be.
Yeah.
They go over the gate there into the field above the allotments, and they can walk round the back of that wall without going through the secret garden at all, and that's how they're getting in.
That is Pendle Council land.
Yes, it is.
It's leased to a farmer for cutting hay, I think. The top two fields, it's the field and the field above it after the top of the allotments is what he's talking about. They can get in halfway up.
Yeah.
Because they used to have a pigeon loft there, and there is like a track where you could have got a duck in and everything. It's like a bridge type thing over the dike.
Okay, so could Pendle Council put in some defence? Is it possible? Because I don't know. I know where the allotments are. I know where the middle of the park is, but I can't see this in my mind's eye, truthfully.
Because there's a bridge there, we're assuming they're going across that. That doesn't mean they are, because
No.
young children will get over any sort of fence. That
No, we need a site visit with Phil Riley to look at this. So
If someone wants to arrange one with Gina and Nathan, if Nathan wants to go as well, I know that area quite well, and I'm quite happy to go as well.
okay, so should we do that? Because that could be another approach, couldn't it? But it could be that they're not getting in that way, but we could.
But it's 100% correct. You can get to the back of that wall without ever coming in the secret garden.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be seen.
No.
Even if we had CCTV, wherever we put our camera, the wall will block the view of them because they'll be on the other side of it.
And you wouldn't even get mudded up getting there. You know, it's so easy. Well, I'm quite, if Gina wants to arrange something with Phil Riley and see what he can do to help us, I'm quite happy to come along. And anyone else who wants to.
Right. Well, you send us all the data and the time if once we've sorted that out.
Can we just get back to one other point here, Chairman?
Yeah.
The reason why we took the item now was because we are really talking about authorising Gina to go out to consultation, because we've got to go out to consultation about the loan we want to do for the boiler and the other things. And if we want to tack a little bit of money, we can't afford to take a lot out at this stage because we'd have to pay the repayments back. But if we want to add a little bit of money to it to do something around the scenario with this wall, now is the time to say, because it needs adding to the permission to go for Gina to go out on consultation. Am I making sense where you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if we want to spend another 20 grand that we haven't got, and we want to take a loan out for it, now is the time to say, because we don't want to be applying for 2 loans this year. So now is the time to do it if we want to make that decision. So I think, Chairman, we need to get back to Gina telling us what she thinks we need to go out to consultation on for a loan.
Okay. Thank you, Gina.
Right. So obviously we have as well as the wall, we do have 3 projects in mind, which is obviously the shop refurb, so that we can get someone in there. So that's the shop front and the extension at the back. Also the town hall heating system, so that's replacing the boilers and putting in an element of control. So that's another project, and then the other one was to refurb or convert the first floor offices into living accommodation. So that was to create a 2-bedroomed flat in that office space. So that office space goes over both number 2 and number 4. So it's ample space for a 2-bed there. So because of the extras that were put onto the shop, that project is now estimated to cost 140,000, and that is just for the shop on its own. The boilers, we did have a quote that was 3 years old, and that was just under £50,000 to replace the boilers. We now have had a requote for that, which is now around £64,000. We obviously wanted to add other controls in, so we did estimate an element for that. And at FES we did estimate a total of £100,000 for that project. We then, the conversion of the flat, we did actually say that that would cost 30,000. Now this is because the replacement of the windows has already been included in the shop project, so that's in with the 140,000 for that. So the only thing that's left is really capping off services, installing bathrooms, etc., and the other is just sorting the floors and ceilings, and we were getting the landsman to do that in-house, obviously to avoid unnecessary costs. Really, he's got plenty of experience with refits. So. But it's whether we want to, I mean, obviously we have now a bit of leeway in the heating, because we estimated 100,000, and it's likely that it would come in at less than that now. Whether we want
costing us 44, that even in
it's still
summer,
a bit,
4,000 in summer.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's hot. Hot.
So we did originally say that we would just do the shop and the heating until we knew what financial position we were in. However, when we did the maths and took into consideration savings in obviously the heating bills, also the putting the flat in there with the rental income that comes in, will also be savings in utilities because that area will be cut off. There will also be savings in business rates because that will then be classed as residential and will be council tax, which the tenant would pay. It actually worked out better for us to actually do all 3 of those projects rather than just the 2. So it just meant that we could borrow over a shorter length of time, thereby paying less in interest payments. But it's whether we want to add any in to cover some expenditure for the wall.
I'll open it up. Do you want to say something first as chair as FES?
Yeah, yes, I'd like to do first, Chairman, if I can. When it went to FES, we looked through all the figures, and what I asked Steve to do was to work some prices out for us, because there's 2 ways we can do the shop. We can either just do the shop and only have one income, which would be from leasing out the shop, or we could do all of it to cost us more money, obviously, to do all of it, and we'd have 2 incomes, because we'd have the income from leasing the shop out, we would have the rental income from the flat above, so we'd have more income. And we would also, as Gina's mentioned, we would have the saving, because the office space, which is the upstairs part now, which is now the office space, would come off our business rates and would be gone onto council tax. So that would be a saving to us. And when say you work the figures out, it is an absolute no-brainer. It is quite a lot cheaper to do the whole thing now. I know there's more money to lay out initially, but to do the whole thing out in one do and have two incomes rather than splitting it, it's far cheaper because it allows us, with the second income, it allows us to pay the loan off a lot quicker. And over the period of the loan, it's actually a no-brainer, isn't it? That is the way to go. And I think we've got to take out, the little bit extra and do the flat as well, because of the savings and the extra income. It's ludicrous. I didn't think I knew there'd be a difference, and I thought it might be marginally better, but it is considerably better.
Do everybody understand what these public works loan boards are? Anybody need a bit more information? Or yes, David.
I've been through this. Obviously, as you say, there's a lot of information to talk about the journey we've gone through and everything. And I think that the key piece of paper is that one, which is the one that has the table in, as you say, with the three projects on. I think in a way it's an odd one because the shop is the one that costs the most and makes £6,000 a year, and yet the flat, which costs almost nothing in comparison, makes £6,000 a year as well.
Yeah.
So the return on that one is phenomenal and really funds it. And the same is true about the heating system as well. Again, that's the sort of second most expensive project, but still, if you've got the 64 plus the control switches and whatever, then that comes in at less than the amount you've got in there, which does give a small amount of wriggle room.
Yeah.
But then also you can save at least £7,000 a year. I think given that we were spending £7,000 in January, weren't we, as a month alone. So if you start to say, well, you can save 20% of your heating or whatever, which you should be able to, if you can zone this thing so you only heat this room and you go out into a chilly corridor, well, run through the corridor a bit, and get to the next warm room. That's what you do.
Well, you'd only, well, David, you'd only heat it when it was in use, wouldn't you? Well,
yes, well, exactly. So if you can zone it and you can do that clever stuff, that's the way to make it work. Obviously, you don't want to have some places where it's freezing cold the entire year because you're going to cause problems with damp and mold and whatever. But I think clever use of that would mean you could really save quite a lot. So I think all three projects is definitely the right thing to do. And you'll get the best return on the flats, the second best return on the heating, and the third best on the shop itself. But the shop's the bit that you see that's visible, etc. So I think that's a definite. I think there's a slight wobble in your spreadsheet about halfway down the right-hand column there, where it suddenly switches from 57,000 to 2. But I think that 2 and the numbers below it, that's the shortfall each month. So the 57 should keep on going until it reaches the yellow line, where it should be about 70 odd. And you basically have your shortfall keeps going up and up and up until you reach 70, and then you turn around and you basically pay off the loan. So you don't just match the loan, you essentially start overtaking it madly because you've basically repaid the loan and you're then making 10, 20,000 a year profit. So that's how that spreadsheet should work, I think. But the outcome is still the same. You still do it, and that's what you do. I think in terms of if you top it up and say, do I take 10, 20, you might get a little bit extra from the heating project. But I think you're still thinking you might want 20 or 30 even, just to top that up there. Feeding through into the consultation, I suppose it's a question really, why are you doing a consultation if you're not changing the precept? That's just if it's something you have to do, then fine. But if the public come back and say, don't do this, don't do this, does that veto our decision to do it? Surely not. And on the consultation itself, you've given us sort of a thing about what the consultation could be like. But I think there's a lot more pain and rationale in the document that doesn't really make it to here. When you talk about this, talks about it's in a dire state, it's costing this and whatever, whereas the consultation should really bring that out.
This was mainly for like an initial, say, social media post to go out,
yeah,
to inform people Obviously, we will have a survey as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, you don't want reams and reams on a social media post. So
No,
that
no.
was the
But I think you've got in the reason for recommendation, which is paras 48 to 52. That's the one in a nutshell, which basically says what the consultation should say. You know, you're doing this because of errors, catastrophes, dire needs, absolutely whatever. And I think in terms of a survey, presumably it's just, are we doing this, yes or no? But
yeah.
I couldn't see what the survey was
Yeah.
what said, but you know, just keeping it nice and simple. And you might want to put one or two numbers in there as well, because you're saying, why are we doing this? Well, we hope to save at least 7,000 a year on our heating bill. That's why you're doing it. So that's your consultation. That should say why you're doing it. Don't be afraid of the maths, because the maths is all in here. So you're telling them, if we spend 50, we'll get 7 back a year. Repayment period, pretty good. So, you know, you're just putting a bit of flesh on the bones in the consultation without making it too long, but you're really just giving the reasoning why.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to make it sound really, well, it is serious. And you have to
It
make
is, it is.
Yeah.
And if you're backing it up with extra seriousness in terms of we'd like to borrow a little bit more because of the catastrophe that some of your little children are doing, you know, if they come home smelling of smoke, fire smoke, you know where they've been.
Sarah, did you want to say something?
All of this has got me thinking about going back in time when I was chairman of the town council, and basically, David will remember this, we were forced to take this town hall, and we knew it was full of asbestos and bad things, new PVC windows and awfulness. And at that time, I said no very firmly to Pendle Council, and they started, you remember this, David, on your suggestion, throwing in extra bits of real estate. And the shop was one of those, and so was the Liberal Club and those shops, and that was there to sweeten the deal. Pendle Council still owns things that you can't see why it truly owns them. They're not a service, really. I'm not convinced there's a strategy there. But we're in that position now because of that historical situation. We took all of these things that were there to sweeten the deal of really something that's a massively loss-making but historically fabulous building. And we were told that we would be not able to dispose of those buildings for 10 years. And at the time, we didn't have any Lensman or any kind of know-how. So really, my ears pricked up when you said, we can keep the costs down for the residential, yes, of next door. We can keep the cost down because we've got a team who'll do the painting and can do simple plumbing and so on. Well, then we could consider that with next door that way. And that could make us potentially, this is perhaps for our bigger meeting when we're discussing all our assets and things that we want to take on. We could potentially do a development that way that would give us a nice little earner, or, and I don't think now's the time with the economy the way it is, we could consider divesting ourselves of an asset which isn't really part of what we do. It's not our raison d'etre, is it? Whereas this building very much is. I just think that's something that we could consider.
Thank you. Right. Anybody else want to say anything about this? Is it statutory that we've got to consult?
No, but we have to consult generally, so they have to be able to see that we have notified the public of what we intend to do, and why we intend to do it. Also give them an opportunity to have their say, which is why they suggest putting out a short survey.
Well, we need to shock them though, to say we're not doing this because you know, we want to. We don't want, you know, we love to have lots of debt. You know, we don't want to do it. It's doing it because it's what the town needs. Yes, David.
Gina will know more about this than I do, because obviously it's Gina who's doing the course where she's got to do her exam and pass before long. So she's obviously got all the relevant info because it's her who's doing the training course. But as far as I'm aware, we wouldn't get the loan off the Public Works Loan Board, and they're the cheapest to get the loan off, without a doubt. We wouldn't get a loan off them if we couldn't show that we had consulted. So it might not be a legal thing that you've 100% legally got to do it, or you can't borrow the money because you might be able to go to NatWest and borrow it. I don't know. But to get the Public Works Loan Board, if we can't show that we've consulted, they will not consider the loan. And that's the way I see it. From memory, I can only remember us consulting once before, and it was when we did the play areas, and I don't think we got a comment.
What do you mean from the?
Well, we consulted when we got the loan for the play areas, didn't we?
Mhm.
And I don't think anyone commented.
We did get
Did we?
plenty of
Were there no
feedback.
adverse comments? I don't think, were there?
No, but it was an online survey and we did get,
Yeah.
and those results were sent with
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but what I meant is, I don't think Joe Public in general kicked up a fuss about it.
No.
No,
Oh.
no. I don't think there were any adverse comments.
Okay, Patricia.
Yes, Chair. I know we've been talking about this, but Cantina, have you got a figure in mind that we might need to borrow on top of all this, to cover work within to secure the wall on the secret garden, or for repairs or whatever? I don't know. That's because obviously that is what our townsfolk will want to know exactly what are you grasping from the public purse, and what are we having to pay back for? That's
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say. If we wanted to rebuild the whole wall, then obviously we haven't got a recent quote. The last one we had was over 350,000.
Yeah.
So
We can't do that, can we?
no.
then even if it's just to, as Nathan said, just to secure it, take it down, secure it, because as Councillor Clegg has said, we can't do anything while we've got loose chippings on it, or the wall is loose. It's got to be taken down to its foundations. So we might as well, take it down to its foundations to secure it, while we've got the secure fencing around it. So we're going to need. That's what I'm asking. How much do we think we're going to need to secure the wall and the material, all the stone, for a future when we can rebuild?
Can I also ask Nathan, when we get these heavy duty panels, do you think that'll stop them to be able to have it in a worse condition, or do you think it will stay as it is? Or
I think with the fencing you put up, it's heavier duty, but kids will still climb it.
yeah.
They'll still get over, but it's trying to stop them from breaking through the fence. If they want to climb over and fall off and hurt themselves, then they probably won't
What
do it
about
again.
coming from the fields?
Well, that's the thing. If we take the wall down, then it's open. You can't fence it off, can you?
So do we need to make a decision on this?
We did get a quote to take that section down
Yeah.
temporarily, which can you remember what it were? It was roughly around about 25,000 to take the wall down temporarily, which obviously take it down to foundations, and then
If that includes storage of the store.
There'd be no extra cost for storage, so the price we pay for storage doesn't matter whether we've got 10 skips or 3 skips. But it was roughly around about 25,000. Take the 46 metres of wall down to foundations, clear all behind it, and then we've got a blank canvas to start from once a decision's been made on how we proceed with the wall.
So do we need to do that decision now tonight?
Chairman, if we take the wall down now, it's going to cost 25,000 to take it down and have it taken away and put in storage with the other store. Yeah? Right. I don't think they can start building the wall back up on what's there now, because what's there now is not stable. So if you build the wall back up on that, you're wasting your time, because the foundations wouldn't be secure, would they? The whole lot would go over. So at some point, the wall has got to come down. So it's a bit to pay for to have it taken down to ground level to start building again, if we had the wall totally rebuilt at some point. So it's going to cost us to take it down, whether we take it down now or put a fence around it and leave it in its current state for the next couple of years or whatever. So if we're going to have to pay 25 grand to have it taken down at some point so that we can rebuild the wall, we might as well pay 25 grand to have it taken down now so it's down, take it away and store it, and then at least the site is safe from accident point of view. That's my view.
Is anybody any? Yeah. Absolutely, David. Yes, Sarah.
Sounds really logical. Just as a note of caution, I think we should take actual advice from somebody who perhaps isn't a contractor, some kind of conservation expert, perhaps Growth Lancashire or something like that, so that they haven't got an axe to grind, and then we know that we're doing the right thing, because we don't want to be kicking ourselves after the fact.
Yes, Alice.
Yes, I mean, given the history of how it has been improved in the past, I think Sarah has a very valid point that we need to get an expert in before we do anything rash.
So this is an expert opinion on the wall and
whether to take it right down
or not, or the options that they might come that we're not thought about.
But obviously it has to be secured first, as quickly as possible.
So is that a proposal? Yes. Is there a seconder for that? Ian, any other proposals? Counter proposals?
Just check that. Are we going to use the, in inverted commas, slack that's in the quotations in the figures for the loan now? We know that the boiler's coming a bit cheaper and we can maybe do that a little bit cheaper. Or do we want to add another 10, 15, 20,000 to the loan we're asking for to give us
Yes, I know that. Yes. But I'm just wondering how long it would take to get this expert opinion.
That's the thing. Are we leaving it as it is until we get this opinion, or do we take the wall down now?
I think what we've got to do is, number one, get the best fencing that we can get around it to keep people out. Then number two, we get some experts. I can't imagine that there are experts on the shelf, so that we may have to wait a while before one is a bit. Yeah, but they may have diaries that are full. You know, they have holidays like everybody else. So
that's true. We're just about to have Easter, but I could send Gina tomorrow the names of several people that she could bring up. I don't think it's a very complicated job to make that decision, to see whether David's logic is correct or whether there is another way that we've not thought of because we're not the experts of this. I'm sure that we could get somebody to come on to this quickly, but I do think that we should set aside some money. It's just that we just don't know how much money.
No.
Yeah,
But it would only be a drop in the ocean in any case. It's not like we're setting aside the money to solve the problem.
No.
We can only put enough in the interim to at least do something.
Yeah, and it'll be what if it is that the wall has to come down temporarily. That's the money. That's the 25,000 to do it, isn't it?
And the thing that'll decide whether we're okay taking the wall down or not, the way I see it is if someone was to advise us and say, yes, if ever you rebuild that wall, it would have to be taken down to ground level in order to do it, because you'd be building good on bad, then it won't do any harm to take it all down, will it? If it's going to have to come down anyway. So if we get advice as to whether the wall would have to be removed right down to its foundations and have a new start, and I think it would, to be fair, because it's all loose. You can just lean on it and push it over.
Yeah.
It's like a dry stone. It's worse than a dry stone wall. And if someone were to say to us, my advice is that you would have to take it down to ground level and start afresh, then it won't do any harm to take it all down and put it in storage, because it'd have to be done anyway. And that's what we need. We need.
And we want it within a month. They'll have to tell us within a few weeks. Yeah. The sooner the better, but
But I stress to maybe we can get some answers before the next meeting.
Because it is important. It's an important wall, but it's important that we get the right advice, and so we know what direction we're going in. Are you making a proposal for that, David? Well, it's all right.
Because of it. We're involved in it really with FES, and it's up to all council to decide how much we want to go for.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for the figure that Gina had, or the shop upstairs, the shop downstairs?
All right, we'll take that separately then.
No,
I don't mean separately. I mean, we know.
Do we want to go to that figure that Gina had for all three?
Yeah.
Or do you want to add some extra to it?
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we, as you say, we agree the 230. We might make a saving here and there. We might have a surprise there and there. But 230 covers the three projects, and I think that's worth doing for all the reasons set out.
Yes.
I think we should round it up to say 250 to give us the extra 20 for immediate works. Stage 1, stage 0.1 of the works to be done at the Alton Goats Park with the secret garden wall.
Is that too little?
Well, this is just to cover the immediate advice
25.
and the taking down to the foundations, wherever it may be.
Not on FES necessarily. Say to us, I think we should borrow this one.
Yeah.
So when we've got the consultation, it's including that wall as well. And the figures
And if a special consultant advisor, knowledgeable person says definitely all the way down to the foundations, or that bit's good, now the rest of it's that, then we're spending the money taking it down right now to get it ready regardless. So I think that logic yes.
Yeah.
And we do the fencing and the signage, and we do the PR and the social media to say keep your children away.
Ian.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Do I take it to save confusion that we've got two proposals which in effect can be dealt with as one proposal because they're obviously tied in and follow each other?
Yes. Yeah.
And therefore, should we not just vote for both proposals at the same time?
Chair, we've got one proposal,
I think
which
mine
is we ask for
supersedes-
£250,000.
Yeah.
And we know that on the consultation, there's now a number 4, project 4, Alkincote, wall within Alkincote.
Phase 0.1.
Well,
That
might be a provisional emergency.
state of the wall, whether it needs to come down.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
yeah. Is everybody understands that? Is
Mhm.
everybody happy to start to vote on it? Yes.
Do we need a second then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favour? Thank you. I didn't mean it as separate. I meant as an add-on.
You can read. That's the job.
Are we okay now?
Scribbling all right.
Is everybody still?
Yeah.
Right. Can we have a bit of quiet? Are we all right to go? Are we all right to go on to item 10? Item 10, members. Small grants awarded.
Yeah, this is just for information only. Just to let you know, at the last FES meeting, we did award 2 grants. One was for the Waterside Millennium Green Trust for their Sunsplash event, which I think is end of June, is it?
Yeah.
Yes. So that was £1,000. And then we also awarded £1,000 to the Colne Dramatic Society for roof repairs needed for the Little Theatre.
Yes, Sarah.
I was a bit shocked to read that. Is this the old bit of the Little Theatre?
I think it was.
Not the
yeah.
new bit, is it?
Wasn't the new bit? No.
Really.
Okay.
The only other thing I've got
Yes.
on the policy itself, obviously you've highlighted
Oh, yes.
highlighted the changes there. I think they're fine. You do have a slight range of fonts and pictures as the document goes through. So,
I thought I'd done that.
but
I
other
did,
than
I
that,
did see a few and change them. But,
don't
yeah, so I forgot about that. Can I get a proposer and seconder for the policy amendments?
And Ian, second that. Yeah, all those in favour? Thank you. We'll move on to item 11, which is Treasure Our Town. We had a nice afternoon, didn't we? Well,
Never have it. You go to Alpha to get
it was sunny.
It was nice
It
weather.
was sunny. It was nice weather.
the sun shone on the litter.
Yes, it did.
Lovely.
But no, we did find quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, Sarah.
So Phil Riley said he was straight away on it with the post and the concrete and taking that away. There was no problem. I wrote rather more seriously to David Walker to say, we do this every year. We also do it with the Combe bid as well. And it's as bad every single time, doesn't make any difference. And I feel really strongly that we've got to think how this should be dealt with. And it's Pendle Borough Council land. Now, I think I've told you all before that I discovered quite recently when I fell down King George V playing field, that Pendle Borough Council has these green spaces. And the green spaces right across the borough has a budget of £5,000 for all of them for the whole year. It's obviously absurd. So I wrote to David Walker and said, look, we volunteers do this once a year with Treasure Our Town. We do it as well with the Combe bid. It's always awful. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel nice. I wouldn't walk through there just because the general feeling that it gives you, all of that rubbish. I mean, I got sacks of shellfish. What was that about? All the shellfish. So much shellfish.
Mussels.
Oh no. So much shellfish. Anyway, but it's always something surprising and not very nice every single time. So I wrote very seriously to him and said, I would like Pendle Borough Council to make an undertaking that its town centre team litter picks this once a month. And I've had no reply. So I have a feeling that they thought, oh, what a nightmare. I feel that I'd like to put forward a resolution that we as a town council write to Pendle Borough Council and say that we do Treasure Our Town and we're the, eyes and ears of Colne, and that this particular site is relentlessly awful. And then we'd like to know what regime Pendle Borough Council intends to do this for safety, for cleanliness, for all kinds of reasons. I think a strongly worded letter as a resolution of the council. I'd like to put that forward.
Thank you. Has anybody else? Yes, Ian?
Thank you, Chair. That's a brilliant idea. And could we not, so the council own that land?
Yes.
Would it be a bit, could we be very subtle and tactful and point out that if they don't, we could get a 215 served on them? Because I've actually discovered that you can actually serve a 215 on the council. You can actually serve one on themselves. So we could ask them that if they don't tidy it up, they'll serve a 215 on themselves.
No, we've tried that. They can't serve a 215 on themselves. They're not allowed to.
Can't we serve it on?
No,
We don't have planning powers. No, we asked that, and Neil Watson told us, no, you can't.
Yeah.
But you could always embarrass them as well.
okay. All right.
We could do an asset transfer for £1.
Yeah, there were some
Not that we-
strange things found there. I found, well, there was a big blind and big loads of jumpers buried in the dirt.
The one problem is that Pendle doesn't own all the,
top bit.
it's the top bit that they own and the bottom bit is in whoever owns the rest of the land. So.
Even so.
Unfortunately, the tights and the underwear were in the bottom bit, along with the 6 pizzas, the blind. Oh,
Sounds like a hell of a party.
Yeah. Yes, well, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So Ian, are you okay to second that? Yeah.
Right. Good. And are we all in favour of that? Yes. Right. Item 12 is the Great British Rhythm and Blues Festival 2025.
There's no real update compared to last month's meeting. We sold 154 tickets and 42 camping pictures. Once year ends out of the way, we'll then start getting wristbands ordered and the last couple of bits sorted. Me and Gina are off to Milton Keynes tomorrow for the UK Blues Awards, and hopefully we'll bring back a trophy for last year's festival. But that's the only update.
Well, good.
Oh,
luck.
we have got the pin badges as well.
Our pin badges have arrived.
Can I just wish Nathan and Gina the best of luck for tomorrow's award ceremony on the Corn Blues.
Yes.
Thing is, we are promoting this town, and Nathan, as events manager, is doing a brilliant job in that with the Corn Blues Society.
Thank you. Item 13 is Colne Neighbourhood Plan. Sarah.
So we had a really depressing and lengthy meeting, but was still really worthwhile for the neighbourhood plan. We are aware of what faces us, or the immensity of what faces us, really. And now, I think at the last meeting I said I wasn't certain that we would be called as people for as to sit round the table in the Wilson room with the planning inspector for this interim local plan, because I had written rather than filled in the form. However, we've received emails that suggest that we can say, yes, we want to be there. Having said that, the emails are of such mind-numbing complexity that even though I've read twice, I'm not sure which days we should be going. I'm not sure which bit. We've got to write 3,000 words of our representation. I'm not sure what we're necessarily. We definitely need guidance here. And I think it's very important because one thing really struck me, which is that the inspector very clearly says that the NPF, did you read this, Gina? The PPF that he's working off is not the current one. He said it's the one from December 2023. So I think that's very, very interesting for us, because he's looking at that plan against the old NPPF. Now, we know that Pendle Council is going to start away with a new plan on the new NPPF. But in terms of, for example, our green spaces, our local green spaces that we're making representations to and developers are making representations against, if we're going off the old NPPF, then have we got a point? So I don't know. But I think it's vital. Gina said that we have a Teams with Michael Wellock to discuss what our response is. Our first response has to be by the 7th of May, and our next response is early June for another series of appendices that, honestly, I'm not even sure of. It's matters 5 to 10 in June. I couldn't even find out where to find matters 5 to 10. I'm relatively intelligent. It's very hard if you're...
Yeah,
If
I
this is
haven't
your-
read through it all yet, but I must admit,
If this isn't your actual trade, they've made it almost impossible. I do feel. So I think that's our first hurdle that we've got to do. Gina, after Easter and hopefully after winning prizes, is going to give us a full to-do list of very serious things to do, including, rather less seriously, but weirdly, it's come up again, about busking in the town. So we commissioned Ian to draft us a policy on busking, and we might be holding auditions next, who knows? So, I mean, the neighbourhood plan covers very many serious issues, and it's right that we address those to try to help Cone. But little things that make Cone more Coney or improve the quality of life, they're important too. And we should be looking at those, and we are doing. So yes, we have an awful lot to do. I would like to do that awful lot as fast as we can, so that we're at regulation 14 with our updated plan in the next few months. And that allows us then to finesse and watch as the new local plan develops, as we get ready, hopefully, to make our updated plan. But I think we need to do that little work, and I'm aware that I've got quite a bit to do. I've got to update the non-designated heritage assets. We've got extra ones to put in, and I think some to take out. And also the whole section, which is section 4, which gives all the stats about child poverty and education and work in the town. All of that is based on old data from 2019 or whatever.
I think you said 2011.
Yeah. Well, the census is.
Yeah.
So all of that section needs completely rewriting, and I'll do that because there's lots and lots of data, LCC in different places. But getting all of those bits together and getting that to-do list of what we have to focus on.
I am in the process.
That's what we need to do. But I feel, and I would like to put another proposal ahead, that I would like to get your support to have Michael Wellock representing us at the public hearings in the Wilson Room. We have not got a quote from him for this, and I do not know how many days that would be, because I didn't understand all of the things with the annex business 1 to 5, whether we should be there for materials, I don't know. I would like, if we had an expert on that table, I will attend. The way that it works is that each party has one seat at the table, but they can have people behind them passing them notes and whispering in their ears. And I would much rather that we had an expert at the table than me, truth be told. Because I don't think I could cope with it. I've done that once, and it was awful.
Oh yeah.
It was really awful. I would like Michael Wellock to be our expert, and I will sit next behind him.
You'll be the witterer.
Has everybody else
Well,
seen this? Has everybody? You sent it to me. Have you sent it to everybody?
Did I send it to you?
Well, I was reading it. I am assuming you did.
Are we on the same thing from the program manager?
Yeah, I don't think I sent it to you.
What do you out there?
You dreamt it, Mary. So if I could make that proposal, I'm hoping that we'll get a quote, we'll understand more when we've had but I would just like to raise that as a spectre because it's out of the funding for the neighbourhood plan. It's more like support for our plan within the Pendle local plan.
Actually, I'm just thinking they probably sent it to you as chair of the
Oh,
council.
yeah, yes. Well, because I think there was all these different dates on whether you had to.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
I got one as Richard Beale.
So I read it quickly, then I shut it and thought, Sarah knows. Right, okay. So is everybody happy with that? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is planning application. I think there's a new one coming, a new planning application.
It's just
Just well,
discharge of conditions, I think.
yeah. Right, the first one is 25/0042/VAR. It's 14 Keats Close, Cone. It's a variation condition replacing Pebble Dash with render. Yes,
I think
Howard.
the problem comes from when because I couldn't understand because I'm not sure that there are many houses on the Judge Fields estate that have got Pebble Dash on them. There's a mixture of all sorts of things, but the original planning application for the building of this, which was I can't remember, it's a 17 number, so I suspect that plan meant, well, it mentioned Pebble Dash on it, whereas in fact I think in reality it's rendered, so I suspect it's just normalizing because the permission said to match the existing.
Does this now come back to me? Do you remember when I went litter picking and I got a whole gang of children who came too, and they all lived there, and I spotted that there was a house that had just got an extension of block work, and I sent it to Pendle Council, and they said it's a planning permission that hasn't been finished. So that's what that is. At the moment, it's just block work.
So are we no comment? No comment? Yeah. Right, the next one is 25/0196/FUL. It's Tower Buildings, 2 Keithley Road, Cone. Full alteration to existing front and side shop door. Has anybody any comments? I got Ian first and then Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Does this, well, I believe it's quite an important building and it's a historical building.
It's a gateway building.
Yeah, does this actually detract from this, does it alter the historical frontage of the building?
Well, yeah, but it's
Because we don't want anything, we don't want to make the mistake we've done in the past where we try to modernise everything. Because it just won't look in place.
It was a previous application.
It was previous. Yeah, I remember discussing it.
Does anybody know any more about it? Yes, Sarah.
In the not too distant past, by which I mean probably 70s/80s, there was a shop front on there and a shop that sold cloth. I can't think of the right word for it, but no, it was more bolts of cloth and so on. And the problem is the building has been lots of things over the years. I have been told that there is a sprung dance floor up there. Whether that still exists or not, I don't know. The tax office were in there for a period. So there's been lots of things. There was a fire there in the 30s, and so what the original looked like,
No idea.
I think it would be very difficult to find out unless there are some Victorian photographs that somebody's got somewhere.
Sarah?
So the last application was turned down because our officer's advice, it did spoil the building. It looks to me that they've listened to the officer's advice of the reasons for it being turned down. They're not trying to punch new doors into narrow windows. They retain their the stall risers will be there. The little decorative corbels will be there. There's a nice little column. If it's as shown, then it would be a significant improvement on what's there now. Throughout the planning application, it says this isn't in a conservation area. Of course, we all know that if Neil Watson finishes it, it will be in a conservation area and it'll be a sort of a gateway building into the conservation area. So to me, I think it looks like they've listened to the officers, but I'm worried about what it's going to be. But that's not what the planning application is.
No. Are we okay? Just say no comment rather than we, yeah. Now the next one is 25/0209 PIP. It's land to the west of Lakeside, Red Lane, Colne. It's permission in principle, erection of one dwelling. Yes, Sarah.
It is in the green belt, but I'm guessing that you've read all the justification about the positive planning tilt and all of that. I think that we as the town council can say it's in green belt and it affects the openness of Red Lane. We could try.
Well, it seems that the people who live on the other side, when they built their own house, they got that land, that they owned it, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes, Chairman. When the houses up Red Lane were built, basically the ones on the left going up were built first, and they all, in their great wisdom, bought the piece of land immediately opposite them because there's no real planning reason for blocking to be stopped from blocking someone's view. So the ultimate way of ensuring you don't get your view blocked is to buy the piece of land across from you. And that's what they all did. But over the years, some of them have sold bits off. And I am not sure whether the house opposite it still owns that piece of land. And they are selling the piece of land off to get an extra, to get an income from it, to allow a house to be built on there. I'm not sure whether that's one that still owns it or not. And that's why there are great big gaps on the other side, because some of them have refused to sell their piece of land off because it puts the value of their house up for anyone buying it in the future, knowing that no one can build in front of them and block the gate.
So what we're saying, just that it's in the green belt and
It's green belt,
object
yes.
because it's in our neighbourhood plan. It's
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
would there be a problem though that it was green belt and obviously others have been built across from there? No.
Buildings on that side was probably and that wasn't a new building at Cloud Edge at the top where they converted the garage into a granny flat, I think.
The newest one is
Derek.
Yeah.
The newer one is that bungalow. Yeah. But that must be in the what?
That's
90. Yeah.
That's the
So we're just saying we object because it's building in the green belt, yeah? Proposed.
The worry is, Chairman, that if you allow this one to be built in Greenbelt, and then you allow another one behind that to be built in Greenbelt, and then you allow another one behind that to be built in Greenbelt, before you know where you are, you're all the way down to Banks on Berwyn.
Yeah.
That's what the government wants, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So we object to that, right? But the Next one is 25/0216/CND. It's St Bartholomew's School Exchange Street. And I think you've already mentioned about it, haven't you, Sarah, about they've changed the original plans.
Have I?
Oh, right. Oh, this is Exchange Street, sorry.
I thought I got a bit back there.
It's been a heavy day. It's been a hard day. Yes, it has been a long day. Yes, this is the one that was an Islamic centre, wasn't it going to be? Or something? It was turned down before because they wanted to take the wall down, wasn't it? And there wasn't enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. This has been going on for far too long. And I don't know why they just keep putting new plans, alterations, amendments. And in the meantime, that building's just slowly decaying away. It's a listed building. I would suggest that the council serve an improvements notice or whatever you can do for a listed building to preserve it and that. And also, I don't know what they're trying to say here. Construction method, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But as long as they need to sort of start working on that building as soon as possible to ensure it doesn't decay any further, deteriorate any further. The other thing as well, because it ties back into another thing with this, something different, I'll mention it later. But no, as I say, I think we really do need to actually get them to pull the finger out and preserve this building.
And Sarah, who wants to speak, and then Howard.
So essentially, this is how this came about, because I asked the enforcement officer to go and look at the building and check on it, and I was concerned. And they said, right, okay, if we get these two variations, we're ready to start immediately. I'm touching all the woods. But that is what the enforcement officer has been told.
Thank you. Howard.
They've actually got planning permission, as in 24 blah blah blah, which is underneath it. What they're saying is, here's the method statement. So I assume that's all the technical thing that somebody within the planning department will say, yeah, that's right, or da, da, da. And that they're going to provide cycle storage here, there, and what. It's two very minor alterations. So if that's all they're asking for, yeah, we've no objection to that. But obviously, they need to keep an eye on it. That now they've said that was what was holding something up, that they actually get on with it. Because I think what Ian was asking for has already been done. They've already been given the hard word, as it were.
Yeah. So do we say we welcome this, but it needs being sorting quickly, started? Yeah. Right. Item 15. Have we had any correspondence, Gina?
No.
Any items for a future month's agenda? Anybody got anything burning that they want to bring to the agenda? Yes, Alice?
I don't know whether it can be for the future month. It's about BE Day and the flags. If people can have a look at them and see whether they need to be replaced. One or two are looking a bit tatty.
Which flags are they, Alice?
On the flag
poles across the road,
yeah, not the ones that you walk on.
No, I thought you might have met the bunting or whatever that we have.
Did we not replace one?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Union flag has been changed because Kevin Hay complained about it ferociously.
Just for information, on Sunday, 5th of May, at
Sorry, the 4th of May, St Mark Church are holding a ceremony or a service to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the and I would hope to see members of the town council and intend to bring along with our co-veterans.
What date's that?
4th of May, Sunday the 4th of May.
4th of May, right.
Believe that Nathan was involved in, or Katie downstairs was involved in promoting Polestar. Yeah. So,
What time is that?
4 o'clock, I think it's
4 p.m. 4th of May, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, quiet, children. Date and time of next regular meeting will be the 20th of May, and that will be the annual meeting. So there'll be a meeting before that. Won't there? No, did you? My fault. Their fault.
There's an FESRC.
Yeah.
Parish meetings on the church.
Right. 13th.
Events is on the 27th.
27th.
We do the 13th.
Well, if I don't see you on the 13th, I'll see you on the 20th.
You've got a plan.
Okay.